long is it going to take to get to the Super Bowl?
It depends on the provider. It depends on how mature they want to be, how mature they are today, how mature they think they could be by a certain point, and how much investment money they want to put in. You know, you can all look online and see what the president's budget was back in February. You can see what the authorization language is today, and you can figure out, all right, that's how much the government will have to invest. That's all we have to invest. So anything else has got to be made up by the commercial providers. I would believe, based on what I know and where I think we're headed, I believe we'll be able to fly crew to station sometime between 2015, end of 2015 and 2016. So sometime in that year period, and that depends a lot on congressional funding, and it also depends a lot on how aggressive the provider thinks he can get there.
So just to clarify, this pad is intended for use by commercial companies, and NASA or the government, whoever is going to offer this to commercial companies to use for spaceflight. Correct?
See, I'll answer part of that. I'll let Jose answer the other part. Commercial crew, the program that we're trying to do, would like very much to use whatever capabilities there are at the national level. Pad B is certainly a national asset that can be used for commercial crew. We are not driving anybody to use commercial crew. It becomes part of a business case, a business model that the commercial provider's got to put together. It's just sort of like an airline wanting to move in and out of certain cities. They do that based on a commercial model that they put together. So Pad B could easily be used for commercial vehicles, but that really depends on the commercial provider. What the center is doing, this center, is very much trying to say, hey, if you would like to come use our facilities, there's a front door to use, come use that front door, and we'll talk to you about all the capabilities we have, including Pad B, and what they can be used for.
And so who would be the competitors for this Pad B? Would be the Japanese and the Russians and so on, as well as other companies or sites in the United States? Or
let's see, I would say from internationals, I don't know, I don't believe NASA has any inkling to launch other international vehicles from Pad B.
What I meant
as far
was
as competition,
for competitors, for commercial stuff.
Commercial stuff, we hope to have more than one company going through design and development. Now, the other part of the equation, though, is this pad can also be used for heavy lift, as Jose talked.
Yeah.
So there are things that he's doing and his team is doing to make sure that it could be accountable for either.
Would that be on a cost reimbursable basis for commercial to use this pad?
That is the goal, yes.
And I think in the conference you guys had with the CC Dev interested parties on Friday, there was some question about how much money is available in the program. The $200 million you make available in the project versus the $312 that's in the appropriations language, and it wasn't clear if that was sort of like the rest of that was sort of NASA overhead or just your cushion to protect if the actual appropriation turned out to be less. Can you just talk about the
first,
funding
I really
for it?
can't answer questions related to that procurement, so I have to step away from there. But what I'll say is that whatever you see in the authorization, there's very little of that money that it takes to operate the NASA program. Everything else is in the trade space for where we can go invest. So the number that we put in the solicitation was an about number because we don't have dollars in our bank account yet to go do this. We need appropriations for that. So we let it be very open in that regard. In terms of the actual solicitation, I can't answer those.
Could it be more than $200 million?
Again, I can't answer that.
So Justin Mullins, you say this, it's obviously a poignant sight seeing this in the process of demolition and you have plans for the future. But can I ask you, how do you feel personally, or how will you feel personally during the time when the US is unable to get humans in space?
You asking me or Jose?
That must be both of you.
Okay. You want to go first? No, you go. Well, being that I'm supposed to represent commercial crew and have an entire program that we're going to try to put together, I feel the heat is on. So if you want to know how I feel that the Space Shuttle program is an unbelievable, great success program. But it's coming to an end. And so the next time, as I've told my team and how I get my team motivated, is the next time we want to put a U.S. flagged vehicle into low Earth orbit with crew on board, it's going to be through the commercial crew program. And that means that whatever that gap is, we're the ones who've got to make that gap as minimal as possible. However, at the same point, we can't make it so minimal that we put our crew and the program and the spaceships at risk. So there's a line there that we can't cross to make it go too fast. But at the same point, the heat is on to make sure we're going to do it safely, and then do it as quickly as we can so we can get another U.S. flag carrier flying into low Earth orbit.
And again, it will depend upon Congress. You know, we're basically ready. We have many plans, many designs already on the shelf, you know, to go ahead and start doing the development and the construction that's required to support the commercial and the heavy lift, you know. But again, we're very dependent now upon Congress deciding what the path forward is going to be.
How do you feel about not being able to do it?
I feel that if we could have an authorization tomorrow, you know, and start working tomorrow, I'll be very happy. That's about it.
One of the issues has been the FAA's perspective, where they think they're responsible for safety of commercial spaceflight, and the NASA role relative to the FAA. Could you comment on that? What is NASA's role relative?
Very good question. The law is very clear, and so we're very close with the FAA today. We have meetings with them all the time. They're part of every decision that we make about commercial crew. They are part of that discussion. And the way the law is today, and the way I would expect it to be, if we are flying NASA astronauts to our International Space Station, then that is truly a NASA requirement. It's a government requirement. And one thing that the federal government has, it says you really shouldn't have two federal agencies regulating or monitoring or taking care of the same issue, all right? Because then it gets confusing. So in this particular case, if we are flying commercial crew to ISS, then that becomes a NASA mission. On the flip side, if we fly a NASA mission to ISS on Monday, if there's anything that says on Friday that commercial entity, whatever that company is, wants to go fly crew to some other location in low Earth orbit, another space station, or do other science, that is totally business, totally commercial. That is regulated by the FAA. So the reason why we want to be so close with the FAA is to make sure that the companies who are very interested in this are not going left on Monday and having to go totally right in a different way of doing business on Friday. We want to make those ways extremely simple. But today, that is where the line is. That's where we're drawing it between us and the FAA. We're very close working together to making sure that we can minimize any issues that come up between a NASA launch and a commercial launch.
What if it's a combined crew, the way the Russians launch civilians and Russian cosmonauts and NASA astronauts on the same mission?
Very, very good question. We are off trying to figure out how to go do that. One of the issues there would be is the primary mission to get our NASA astronauts to ISS. Well, then that should probably have more of a NASA role than if it's really we're one seat out of whatever number of seats that they provide. We're just one seat, and then we are a passenger. Then it's like an airline. You're a NASA guy, I fly in commercial airplanes, and there's nothing special, me versus another passenger. So in that case, then it would be more under FAA. So that is a little gray that we're trying to define how we go do that. But again, it depends on who is really paying the highest, most price for that particular service.
Todd Halverson, Florida Today. With the NASA authorization bill being signed into law here in late September, does that enable you to press ahead with the actual standing up of the Office of Commercial Crew Transportation, or are you still in sort of a planning mode until the appropriations bills are passed?
Good question. Today, the way we interpret the law and the way the authorization bill is written is that there still can be no new starts as far as new programs. So we are in a planning state at this point. What we expect is once the appropriations are approved throughout the next whatever until Congress figures out what they want to go do on appropriations, we certainly can't go spend money on commercial crew development too, because there's no money to spend until there is appropriations. At that point, then we can begin to have a program at the same moment. So we're lining all those up to say, ready, set, go, all at the same time.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Hi, I'm Irene Fox with Reuters Aviation Week. Can you talk a little bit about the new FAA centers for commercial space, I think, that are coming out here? And